Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Airments bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Airments.
And we're back. Welcome to Got Mead Live from the den of the puppies of the apocalypse in northern Michigan, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, and the palatial retirement estate now with a new garage in Minnesota. It's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. I want to thank the folks who have renewed or signed up for a Got Mead patron membership in the last couple of weeks. You are very much appreciated. That's the only way I can keep this show on the road. So it's, you know, it does help. Heck, it keeps the things running because I don't have any money. So anyway, we help, we depend on you guys to help us get there so that we can keep bringing this to everybody as often as we can. If you're not a patron member, we hope you'll consider becoming one. It's only $30 a year, gets you access to the patron boards on the Got Mead forum or patron Facebook group, award-winning recipes that are in those places. There's some really good stuff in there. You can sign up for a free membership on our forum at gotmead.com/community. And once you create your free sign up, you can then, if you wish, upgrade to become a patron. So we thank you. If you want to listen to us live, we run live now on YouTube, Twitch, X, and Facebook on the Got Mead page. We do have chat as part of the podcast, and it's turned out to be a little bit odd because we've got 3 or 4 different platforms all feeding into one on this end, and it makes it a little complicated sometimes. So we've got a new chat on Discord, and I'm going to put the link up here on the feeds in a second. So if you care to come over to Discord and have a chat, that's what we're using now instead of Slack. Online social, you can find us facebook.com/gotmead, and our group is facebook.com/groups/gotmead. We are also Got Mead on Instagram, Twitter, X. We're at Real Got Mead. Feel free to tweet if you like. I usually keep a half eye on the feed while we're online. And if you want to send us comments, criticisms, people you think we need to have on the show, etc., you can go to gotmead.com, which, by the way, in case you haven't looked, the hack that was there is fixed. Finally, it only took 5 days to track the stupid thing down. Anyway, you can go to gotmead.com, put your mouse over, but don't click Got Mead Live Radio Show, and there's a drop down. Click the drop down. That'll take you to a form that comes to all 3 of us. So you can send us whatever you think is good. So in the meantime, though, I want to do a shout out for our lovely sponsors. Discover Honeybrook Craft Mead with 2 Colorado locations to serve you. Visit our original Castle Rock tasting room production facility or our brand new Littleton Mead Cottage and Garden. Choose from our 20 taps of wonderful light and refreshing craft mead. Find us using your favorite map app or visit us at honeybrook.com. That's HONNI brook.com. And with that, tonight we are talking with Brian Green. He and his wife own Centeur Imports, and they've been bringing mead in from Eastern Europe and the UK. So we'll get into that. But before we get to the good stuff, what are we drinking? Also good stuff.
Well, that's debatable depending on who's drinking what.
True.
I have got a Chateau Chevet cherry wine from 2009 that has been sitting around as a half bottle for I don't even know how long. It still doesn't taste like cherry. I remember this batch quite well because I put 5 pounds of cherries in it, and it doesn't taste like cherries. The only time I ever got any cherry from it was when I poached some pears in it way back when, and then it was cherry flavored pears. But now I'm getting a tiny hint of cherry on the aftertaste, but it kind of tastes like a sherry, not a cherry. But as a backup in case I get tired of this, I have got a Stir Fruit Fig Chevet Weirdomel, which I made based on Joe's Ancient Orange variant, and I threw a Chevet part in it. Ask me if you dare.
What about you, Kev?
All right. Well, in my case, I opened up a bottle of Niflheim meadery tonight. This mead earned a second place medal in the semi-sweet Shiv category. So for those not familiar with
Shiv.
competitions, it's the spice, herb, and veg category at the 2025 Valkyrie's Horn competition.
Where's Niflheim?
And
They U.S. or European?
yes, they are. Let me check the back label here. They are in Hamptonville, North Carolina.
Oh, a new NC meadery. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's good. So this one is a clear copper-colored bourbon barrel-aged mead with coffee, vanilla, and hazelnuts. It's still medium dry and sack strength. It opens up with coffee, followed by a light waft of honey. Hazelnuts are lurking in the background, just waiting to be discovered. The vanilla is nowhere to be found, but likely adding some support to the other aromatics. Flavor matches the aromatics beautifully, with coffee playing a strong bass note. Warming alcohols and acid linger in the finish. It's complex, tasty, and well worth buying if you get the opportunity.
Nice. That sounds interesting. I'll have to check that one out.
It's interesting. It's really well done. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I like that it's kind of off dry. So many sack meads, the ones that are like dry, don't really work the good amount of alcohol,
Yeah.
But the opposite end of the scale tends to go to like super cloyingly sweet.
Yeah.
And that gets to be a bit much for my palate. So I'm really enjoying the off-dry character of this. Very nice.
That sounds like a nice one. I will definitely have to check it out. What about you, Brian? Are you having a mead?
Yes, I am. And in the spirit of the show, I decided to mix things up for myself because I thought I could sip some of my meads that I import. But I thought, you know what, I've got some different bottles around, mostly from things that different international mead makers have sent me. And I thought, why not use this as an opportunity to try some different stuff? So I'm drinking right now a Mati mead from India, made from Moonshine Meadery, which is
that's as far as I know the only meadery in India.
Yeah, I think so. So you know them. And basically, this is what they call a tribal honey mead or forest honey mead. So they get this honey from remote tribes in I don't know which part of India exactly, but they basically buy this honey from these remote tribes. And so this is 12%. It is how are they saying? It's earthy, floral, citrus, licorice, butterscotch, caramel mead. Or those are notes that you'll find in it. And I can validate that I pick up all those notes, and it's pretty interesting. It was bottled in November of 23, so it's coming up on a couple of years old here, and I'm enjoying it.
What are you drinking, Vicky?
Sorry, Rob was just saying he finally got approved for his knee surgery. I'm finishing off the Nidhager traditional mead that I still had a half a bottle of, and I didn't want to let it sit anymore because it looked all lonely sitting there half empty. So it's in my glass now, so it's safe. But this is a really nice, sweet traditional. I mean, it's pretty straight up. I believe it's wildflower honey. It's British, so this could be a varietal, and I just don't know. But I'm pretty sure that we're dealing with a wildflower or some sort of field honey.
Yeah,
and
I should know that, and I can say that I don't, but I know, it's.
I can't believe I didn't ask him when we had him on the show.
I should know. Peter always says it's local Yorkshire honey, so it's English.
Okay, honey. Yeah, so probably just a non-varietal version, but it's a lovely bright honey. It's really very floral, and just I wonder how much that plays into the whole English love of gardens.
Yeah, I know it's very well balanced.
Yeah, it is very well balanced. I'd love to see him do some of this oaked because I think it would be really nice that way too. But it's a really easy mead. It's very clean, and it's withstood over a month of sitting on the counter and picked up only just the very, very, very slightest, almost undetectable bit of oxidation. I mean, you just get just the barest whiff when you first open the bottle, and it blows off right away.
Yeah.
So So it holds up well too, which this is my fault for letting it sit on the counter. But if y'all want to get some, Brian has this at Centeur Imports, and that's CENTEUR imports.com. And he has a store on Vino Shipper, and you can get these meats here in the States now by going through the Centeur Imports site. So it's pretty darn awesome.
Yeah.
That we can now get these. Now I've just got to get Brian to pick up like, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe 50 more European. And
that is the goal, Vicky.
There's a buttload of meads. I need you to get onto this side of the pond, Brian.
My God. No, that is exactly my goal. And I was planning to talk about it with you. I mean, I'm just like you. I've discovered so many incredible meads overseas, mainly in Europe. And, it's like, why don't we have these here? So I'm working on it.
Good deal. Well, you and I can collab. I'll be happy to give you the list of everybody I've got and my input on the ones that I've tried.
Yep. Wonderful.
So, but
you mentioned barrel aging for Nidhager. I was going to say, I have a couple of other meads here that I'm going to try out while we're on the show, and these are all from the Sabo meadery in Slovakia, and I've got a barrique aged, just kind of traditional mead. I've got a whiskey barrel aged mead and a rose mead. So those are the others I'll be drinking while we're talking today.
Okay. Oh, rose mead. Who's that from?
That's from this meadery called Sabo, and they sent me samples that
okay.
As I've been working as basically as the importer of record for the Mazer Cup for years now.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it switched over to you. I'm not in the staff anymore, so I wasn't aware.
Exactly. Yeah. And so these meaderies send me all this stuff. I mean, mostly it's just going samples for the show, but a lot of times they'll say, hey, we sent some extra bottles and, why don't you try it and let us know what you think? And so I got these a couple of years ago and I've opened a couple of them. There's one here that I haven't opened. So, I love mead from that particular area of the world, basically Central Europe. And got a couple interesting ones to taste tonight.
Sounds like it. I envy you that they're getting those. I have to like go across the pond to get most of them. Though I did get, when we did we did a series talking to a lot of the European mead makers, and some of them were able to ship bottles into us, and then I would like reship them to share to Kevin. So he had some.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately can't ship to AJ because Canada and the US don't play nice over alcohol. So.
Yeah,
I don't think they play nice over anything right now.
Yeah, I know.
I know all about the rules of internet.
I'll bet you do.
So.
You should. I wonder. Of course, you're bringing them in. I was going to say because one of the things that I've noticed people run into problems with the overseas comps, like Mead Madness in Poland, is same problem that Europeans have, and everybody else that's outside the U.S. has shipping into the States. We have the same problem getting it into Europe. Gets hung up in customs, or it just disappears altogether, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard from again.
Yeah.
Not surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. We can put a man on the moon, but
you ship alcohol from one place to another.
Shipping is something we can't quite manage. Maybe we need to let. I think we need to let SpaceX take over our mail. I think that would, at least it would get there. But so what? Okay, so how did you come to be into mead?
I'm so glad you asked that, because that was kind of what I was hoping we could talk about. I have a funny story, or sort of the story of the origin of our company, which is that in 2001, I actually made my first overseas trip in my life at the beginning of September 2001.
Oh, good
so
Lord!
I happened to be in Europe on 9/11.
Oh, wow!
And again, I was younger, and it was like, whoa, what's going on here? And so I just kind of, after panicking a bit, I just sort of settled in and met some people, and I was on my own. And there was a small sort of a local fair going on, and people said, "Oh, you got to try this stuff, Medovina." And I'm like, "What the heck is
Oh,
Medovina?"
awesome, yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know anything about the language or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, this is the most delicious thing I've ever had in my life. What is this stuff? Oh, it's Medovina. It's honey wine. So eventually somebody sort of translated that. And I'm like, oh my God, it's delicious, And then I went back. I ended up going back that December, which was the time of the winter markets, the Christmas markets in that part of the world, and then it was everywhere, and especially in Slovakia and Czech Republic, they serve it, hot, so mulled mead basically. And I'm out at these Christmas markets drinking this stuff. And I'm like, this is literally the most incredible thing I've ever had in my life. And it just sort of popped into my mind at the time, like, well, wait a second, there's this stuff that is absolutely fantastic and totally unique. And I've never had anything like it, but yet we don't have it in the States. And so, the kernel of becoming an importer, got seeded in my mind right there, shortly after I visited there. And it took a while to kind of, simmer and grow. And eventually I would say it was ultimately about 10 years later. It's like, listen, nobody's doing this. and I kept trying all these different meads and, visiting meaderies. Every time I'd go there, I'd taste some more and bring some home, and people would say, yeah, this is absolutely delicious. And finally in 2013, by that time I had already gotten married, and my wife and I said, let's do it, let's make it go, and so we set up our company, and I learned how to import, and sort of the rest is history. But we just got it going, and we felt like we could bring something really unique at that time, lesser known, new products into the market. We thought, by having a different product, or something that, not necessarily every importer might have, we might have a chance. And I can say, after over 10 years of doing it, being an importer, we would not be surviving if we hadn't focused on mead, because the people that we sell to say, yeah, we can't get mead like this from anywhere else. You got great stuff and good prices.
Yeah.
So
there's only been one other that I know, and that was Stosky's in Chicago was importing, and they brought Polish meads in because they were themselves Polish, and they came to like the first 5 or 6 mazers. They were at every single one. Their dad, he was a mead maker, and I remember when the kids had found some of Dad's mead that he had stashed, and it was like 50 years old. And so Andy and Joey, his son and daughter, bring this to Mazer, and we're just like over the moon, 50-year-old Polish mead, what? And I mean, the crowd around them was like they had Heart of Darkness,
That's a crazy story, and it's we have a connection there, because about, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, we got a phone call from essentially an exporter in Poland, and they said, hey, we heard that you're importing and you focus on mead, and we had a partner that's not, it's not really happening.
When the old man retired, the guy that they put in his place thought mead was worthless and not worth his time, and they just stopped altogether.
Essentially a similar story as I heard, and they said, would you like to work with us? And ever since about 2018, we've been bringing in the Polish mead as well.
Good.
And that's going well. It's excellent mead. It's a different style. Polish mead is, I call it it's sort of it's the French wine of the mead world, because it's iconic.
It's iconic.
It's regulated in a sense by the government.
Yeah, like the Germans do beer. Yeah, they got the rules.
You got to follow the rules, and so you don't generally find bad mead out of Poland. So that's kind of the story how we got involved in
setting up an import business like this. What process did you go through? Where did you do?
Yeah, and you came out of being a college professor to do this, right?
That is right.
That's a little bit of a career change, my friend.
It is. I was an academic, career academic, and it's might be not so interesting for the listeners, but yeah, I just kind of had a little bit of an epiphany. I started as just a sort of a side gig. Hey, let's have a side gig. But at some point, maybe 2014, 15, I said, higher ed's changing. The numbers are down as far as students, and the whole industry is changing. I said, maybe I just need to shift over into doing this full time. And I kind of put myself on a wind down, glide down path. And 4 years ago, I retired altogether from academics and just become full time in this. But yeah, it's a steep, very steep learning curve. Importing is, if I were to sort of boil it down into a flow chart, anybody could look at it and say, okay, I get that, how you do that. But there's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of details, and a lot of times your suppliers, because Europe is, especially I focus on European stuff, they just don't have the regulations that we have, and so they don't get it. Why can't you just do this or that? And I said, well, that's not how our law works. So you got to spend a fair amount of time just kind of getting up to speed on how U.S. import law works and how American alcohol distribution works. We took I would say years to kind of fully get really a handle on that. And then once we understood the process, it's really becomes about ramping up. And I don't really know in the case of everyone on the call how your backgrounds, but to really make it work out, it's really becomes about volume. And so you're not it doesn't help to sell 50 bottles of something. You really need to sell 5,000, 15,000, 50,000. And so how do you scale up, and get your costs down and sort of make it all work out economically. And, we've tried to be, as an importer is basically a middle person, you're in between the supplier and the ultimate distributor and the retailer and so on. So, we said, we want to have these wonderful products that we love, that we've discovered, and get them out there. And I noticed very quickly as we got into this, a lot of the meads were really, I would say, very expensive. Most stuff being sold in 375 milliliter bottles, and even years ago it was maybe $19 or $22 for a 375, and I'm like, wow, that's $45 for essentially a bottle. If we can make our stuff more affordable than that, maybe we can attract some new customers into the world of mead. I can't say for sure if we've done that or not. I think we have, but it is a tough and competitive market, especially lately with all the inflation, tariffs, etc. To sort of make a buck out of it, we've had to raise our prices, but we're doing okay after 12 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking through it. So do you get that kind of information directly from the government, or do you rely on people in the trade who are willing to provide you with some information?
That is a very good question. There is as you probably know, mead falls, as far as the TTB is concerned, falls in the wine category. Mm-hmm. And so there's a woman named Deborah Gray who wrote a book called How to Import Wine. And I can say that probably without that book, I may not have ever gotten into this, because it really was a guidebook. Here's how to do this. And in truth, there's a lot of little details and things that maybe were either changed or evolved after she wrote the book, but it got us started. But yeah, a lot of people talk about the sort of the I don't know what you would call it, the black box, or the mystery of the federal government and working with them. They don't make it easy. They have pages and pages of regulations and rules that are often very either opaque or
contradictory.
Contradict everything about all of the above. And so you're like, wait, what? But
and then if you get an answer and you ask 5 people, you get 10 different answers. It's they're they're all completely different. It's like just like that on the labeling and recipes and
Yeah.
the TTB. You could talk to two different people in the same day and get completely different answers to something.
You are so on the target. I mean, so for when you import, usually the first thing you do is you work on the COLA, the certificate of label approval, and that goes through the TTB. And I've been doing this for 12 years. We've imported wine and mead and many different things. We probably have done, I'm going to say, about 150 individual different products over time. And I have never yet once had a label approved on the first round. I feel like I don't know if they just see it as their job to sort of find reason to reject you, but you would think that eventually you would learn, okay, this needs to be like this, and the government warning needs to be like that, and so on, and just sort of get it. But I've never gotten it. You always have to go through multiple rounds with with them. And you're right, you have to have recipes. This is something the average person may not
labels
know.
And
you have
well, and in that case, you're
if it is
importing from overseas, right? So are they giving you a recipe, or are you coming up with that on your own?
It gets it from the meadery.
Yeah, the producers provide the recipe. That's exactly right. So unless it's a pure traditional mead, honey, water, and yeast, in that case, you don't need a recipe. But if there's anything else in it besides that, you've got to provide a recipe or formula, they call it, and you get that from the producer. And it's one of the funny things with that is that the producers, they see that as sort of secret proprietary information.
Absolutely.
I mean,
so the only people seeing it are the entire U.S. government. It's okay, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'll give an example. We work with Apimed is our longest and kind of our biggest partner from Slovakia, and they make a mead called Trnava mead, which is a spiced mead, and it's a mead. It's got a bunch of different herbs and spices in it. And I was like, oh, I need your recipe. How you make this? And they're like, we're not telling you that. I was like, well, if you want to import it, you got to. And I had to kind of go round and round and just say, look, it's you might feel like that's a secret for you, but the U.S. government is not gonna let us import it unless you.
They're not going to be making your mead. That's just it. But I noticed they don't have to. I'm looking at the label on this Nidhager, and it's got the barcode, and it's got the description. It does have the government warning, and there's the ABV. I didn't notice that the first time around, but yeah, I mean, do they have to change? Do they have to have labels that are okay for U.S. distribution?
Or? Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, because I was looking at it and trying to decide, does this scan against
leads to a couple other questions. So one is, do you apply the label that's used for the U.S. product, or does your producer do that?
No, the producer does it. So yeah, exactly. So it's got to be essentially that, and this is why it's hard for the producers, because they have to essentially bottle and label and package a product that is exclusively for the U.S. market. So they can't just take their product that they have made and send it over here. And that's a pretty big barrier, because it adds significant costs. And that's where it's like, let's say I've worked with some fairly big producers, but let's say you're a small to medium sized mead producer somewhere in Europe or anywhere in the world, and you say, we'd love to get in the American market. And, we've got an extra, we produced an extra 5,000 liters that we could sort of export. Well, on one hand, 5,000 liters kind of sounds like a lot, but on the other hand, to go and, redesign a label for the U.S. market and go through all that with the recipe and so on, it sort of becomes a sort of a balance. Is this really worth it? For some of them, it becomes a kind of a prestige thing. So this is also applies to winemakers as well. But let's say you make a product that everybody loves in your local country. It's very successful. You're doing fine. And you think, hey, we could send this to America. Maybe we won't make any money, or we'll just send a few hundred or a few thousand bottles. But now you're saying, hey, sold in America. So there are companies that will go out of their way to sort of make it happen, and there are companies that won't. They see it. Hey, this is only worth it if we can earn significantly more money. So there's a lot of back and forth
Yeah.
A lot of sort of bureaucratic stuff that is not easy for everybody to work through.
No. Well, there's only,
So,
I don't know, there's maybe a half dozen meads in the United States that ship outside the U.S. You know.
I didn't even know there were any, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
there was let's see, Moonlight was exporting to the Far East for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it. I think B Nectar does some, or maybe he just likes going to the I think he's in the Netherlands right now.
yeah, but no, it was Scandinavia.
Scandinavia, yeah, okay, but
I
yeah, is that?
believe they went to Sweden
Oh,
recently
okay, yeah, because it's the
for a
annual.
festival.
Yeah, and he goes to that thing every year. And but I think he may have been exporting, and then there was who else was sending them out of the country? Mike
What about
Fall did for a while.
the one in Arizona?
Oh, Superstition. Yeah,
Yeah, I think wasn't he exporting at one point?
he was exporting at one point. I don't know if they still are, but it's not something you see a lot of. But to my
Right.
knowledge, there's just Brian. There's just you and the guy up in New York, and I don't know if he's still importing mead. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Do you? I'm
I have another
just curious because
question for Brian on your end of things. You know, there's the thing called grass, right? Generally regarded as safe ingredient.
Mhm.
So before you bring on a new supplier that's outside of the U.S., are
Mhm.
you reviewing that information to determine if you can even consider it, or do you get
Yes.
partway down the road and find out when they give you the recipe as you're finishing up your process that, oops, sorry, this isn't going to work?
So the first time or two, it was what you just said, that we got down the road and like, oops, this is not going to work. But now whenever I come across something, I have a sense of, okay, here are the parameters. What are we dealing with here? And I can usually tell them pretty quickly, this will work or it won't. So I'll give you a couple examples. I worked with a meadery that was using, they were using walnut flavoring and one other flavoring. I want to say maybe a cherry or something, but they were using flavoring to add. So instead of using, fresh cherry or fresh somehow crushed walnut, they were just basically buying a flavoring. And I had to go through FDA and so on, and we ran into a brick wall. They were not going to approve those because if the ingredient has not been approved for use in the U.S. market, it doesn't matter whether it's good, safe, healthy, non-healthy. They just won't allow you to import it. So the general exceptions are if it is, obviously if it's honey, but if it's any kind of fresh juice, cherry juice, raspberry juice, blueberry juice, anything like that, or fresh herbs, elderflower, cinnamon, something like that. Those are all considered as, fine ingredients. So I've basically told all my producer partners, if it's a pure mead, a traditional mead, or it's got fresh natural juice or natural whole spices in it, we can do it. If you got any kind of flavorings or sort of anything artificial, anything like that, we're not even going to bother because it'll just be too complicated.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's been pretty fun.
I'll bet. How long does it take you to, like on average to work out getting, finding and getting another meadery into the States?
That is a great question. So it's not easy, and I'm approached all the time, especially when I work with the Mazer Cup. Don't you want to import with us? So there's a fairly sort of straightforward process that we go through, and I'll say, look, I won't even consider importing your product if I haven't tasted it. I mean, why would I? I can't import.
Yeah.
Oh no. So I'll say, hey, if I haven't for somehow or another gotten a sample, I'll say, send me some samples. And that might be, you can't just send samples, as you were telling earlier.
Right. Yeah.
You have to do what for someone like me, you have to do a COLA waiver. So I have to actually apply and say, this is not going to be an imported product for sales. It's just for a sample. So just to get a sample might take 6 to 8 weeks. And then, I'll try it and say, oh, this is fantastic. Love what you're doing with this. We'll spend some time talking about pricing and, any issues on their side with bottling or labeling or packaging, because most in Europe, at least, most products are sold in 6-packs, which is not always convenient. We do have some in 6-packs, but we prefer 12-packs, and that becomes a negotiation, because it means they got to get a different box and so on.
Yeah.
But then when we get to the point where we agree, we'll say, okay, let's get our labels approved. We need a graphic designer to kind of make some modifications. In the case of Nidhager, it was great because they're already an English language company, so it's just like, add the government warning, change a couple things. That was pretty easy. In some other cases, like change all the language, add the government warning and so on. And that, as I was saying before, that can go relatively quickly, but usually doesn't. It usually takes about 3, anywhere up to about 8 weeks. And then at that point, you're like, okay, we've agreed on everything. We got a label approved. The company will need to order labels and get them, bottled and ready to go, packaged. We have to order our shipping, which, international logistics, it kind of goes in ups and downs. Sometimes it works very smoothly and quickly, and other times it's very slow. But you're talking a couple months from the time the product might get picked up at their place to the time it gets over to our warehouse. And then then we start the slow process of getting it distributed to any of our buyers. So to answer your question specifically, from the time a company might contact us or we might contact them till the time we would have their product available for sale in the United States, it could be as short as about 6 to 8 months, or as long as a year to a year and a half. I would say a year is probably typical.
Holy cow. That's a lot. That's a lot of work for. Well, although I suppose it's probably like intense periods of work followed by weeks and weeks of waiting.
Hurry up and wait.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very deep and steep process, and I tell them all, just please be patient, because they just want to send you the product. Let's go. And but once you get through all that, once you get your cola, once you get your process, they print their labels. After that, it's much more smooth. It's just like placing reorder. So it might be, hey, look, we need another few pallets or a container. Give us a couple weeks to get everything ready, and send it out, and we'll have it in 2 or 3 months. So
okay. I was going to say, yeah, if you're doing a container, it's being shipped, which takes as long as it takes.
Yep, exactly. And you never know. There's a lot of things that can go on with that. In the best case scenario, it's like 7 to 10 days. In the worst case scenario, it's 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does payment work in this scenario?
I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't know. We talk about that. Yeah, all different models. It's a very good question. There's a lot of. I'll tell you a funny thing that I heard years ago when I got started. It said the wine business in general. Again, I'm including mead with that. Is one of the last businesses in the whole world that is primarily done on a handshake basis. So, and that's remains true even to this day from me and most of my partners. So, we'll just have an agreement. A lot of times I'll travel overseas and meet the folks if I can. Not always, but often I do. And you literally sit down, have a meeting, and say, okay, we think we need so many cases or pallets of this, so many cases or pallets of that. We've agreed on a price. We've agreed on a general payment terms, and we shake hands and proceed. And what I usually do is. I wish that I was independently wealthy, to the point where I could just say, hey, I'll take 5 containers of your product, and here's a check or a wire payment, whatever. But no, the reality is I have to receive it. We got a lot of costs in the upfront with the shipping and so on. And now, especially the tariffs is a big issue. So I'll explain it to them. Hey, it's going to cost me X amount of money just to get your product here before I, forget paying you. I have my own expenses, and then there's all the licenses and different things. And I'll say, look, so a lot of companies will ask for, some sort of usually a sort of a symbolic upfront payment. It might be anywhere from 10 to 20%, sometimes a little more. And say, hey, I've got, here you go. You're not sending things out for nothing. But then we'll agree on, an expected time period of payment. and then I just keep them informed. Say, okay, your product finally arrived after 2 months on the boat or whatever, and now we've got it here, and we got some distributors or customers that have been waiting for it, and we're selling this, and I'll let them know that, and I'll say I expect so much payments coming along, and usually as long as I keep them informed, they're okay. But this can be an issue, like as you can imagine, any business, you got your cash flow and different things to worry about. So in some cases, I have partners who are in general not too worried about it. It's just like, make sure you pay us as soon as you can, or when you can, when you sell the product. And others who are pretty nervous. But it's a wholesale business, so I'm not selling a bottle or two here or there. I'm selling pallets and loads, and so there's payment terms that I have with my customers. So it's kind of a slow process where you get paid and you pay your suppliers as you can. But I think basically as it works out, as long as everybody's transparent and things get paid over time, it works out pretty well.
So when it takes a long time for stuff to come across the ocean, which is probably your typical scenario, right?
Yeah.
Do you do any quality checks on the product that's been received to ensure that it survived heat stroke on a container ship or freezing or whatever?
I can say yes. I mean, at least in a basic sense, I have never done, let's call it like laboratory testing or anything like that. With wine, yes.
No, I'm thinking more just like, having a tasting panel or something like that.
Absolutely,
to make sure
yeah. So whenever a new load comes in, we immediately grab, a box of everything and say, okay, let's just, double check this, that this has the quality we thought we were going to expect. I was going to say with wine, I've had wine get spoiled on the journey. Either
I believe
whatever.
That's why the Portuguese invented port,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I asked, because
yeah. So the crazy thing
you
about
don't have any control over the temperature that these things are being stored at.
No, I mean you can pay a lot. Exactly, you can pay a lot of extra money to get essentially climate controlled containers, but it's so much more money that it's usually not worth it. But in all the years I've been doing this now, I've never had a load of mead get spoiled due to transport environment. In fact, I'm usually almost kind of amazed. I mean, we try to always, as best we can, we try to import in spring and fall. That's sort of our goal. We'll get 2 or 3 containers of whatever we need in spring, and then another big load around September, October. But we've had containers come in the middle of summer and middle of winter, and when it comes to mead, my experience is I've never had anything go bad due to transport. So, but we check it just to verify. But I in my experience, at least with the products we've worked with, I've been super impressed with the stability of the mead.
I'm not surprised with the Polish styles. Again, those things can stand up to just about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be stunned if a Polish mead went sideways.
Do you have to look at the sulfite levels? So the EU in general, and I don't know specifically in Poland or each individual country, their sulfite levels, acceptable sulfite levels, are quite a bit lower than the U.S. I think it's almost half.
Mm-hmm.
Do you look at that as well or not?
So none of the meters that we work with add sulfites.
Okay.
But the way
whatever naturally there,
naturally occurring, yeah.
Correct. Now some of them do use ascorbic acid as a preservative. Is a little a touch of that. But the way the sulfite thing works, at least for the American market and the labeling, is that you must declare that the product contains sulfites unless you can prove that it does not contain sulfites. So pretty much everyone I know handles it the exact same way that I do, which is that you just write on there contains sulfites, because if you don't,
easier that way.
Yeah, if you want to say that it does not contain sulfites, you have to chemically laboratory prove that it doesn't, and that just becomes expensive and complicated. So But I know from talking to our producers that none of them have added sulfites. So we label them as contain sulfites, but it's just naturally occurring sulfites.
To where there's none would to do.
You cut out there for a
Because
second.
it does occur naturally as part of fermentation. So it's
yeah.
You're not going to get rid of it unless you treat it somehow.
Exactly. So we have the new Nidhager products coming in. These are going to be.
Ooh, what are you getting?
these are.
Vicky's like, now where did I put that credit card again?
I won't be using anything like that for a while. I am so broke, it's not even funny.
I guess the term is, sort of a session mead. These are going to be like low alcohol carbonated meads, around 5%. And so they literally had them tested as for sulfites. There's no added sulfites, and their testing came back and showed no sulfites. And so when I went to get the labeling approved, we put on the label something like contains no sulfites or something like that, and they said no, you got to write it as no added sulfites, may contain naturally occurring sulfites. So we know that there's no added sulfites, and we've had them tested to show that they don't have sulfites, but it still has to say may contain naturally occurring sulfites. So it's a funny process on that.
At this point, you just say contain sulfites, don't you?
It's just
make it
yeah.
easy.
Exactly. I can pull it up here exactly how we ended up having to say it. It's I think it ended up being may contain naturally occurring sulfites.
See what it says on this one here.
Let's see. Well, you've got the Nidhager the original. That one probably just says contain sulfites, or sorry. Yeah, I'd probably contain sulfites, something like that.
No, I haven't. Hang on, I'm not seeing that anywhere, honestly.
Interesting.
Oh, wait, nope, there it is. It's in the ABV statement.
Yeah. So let's see here for the new product. And I should tell you a little bit. This is important for you guys. It says may contain naturally occurring sulfites. So they allowed that statement. But this is a very interesting. This is important. So Nidhager, I don't know, maybe Peter mentioned this when he talked to you before and was on the show. They were looking at how to best market their product, both in the UK and in the United States. And they did some research, like market research, that showed that at least some people have a sort of a negative connotation associated with mead. It's sort of,
at least some?
Yeah. At least some.
That's a nice way of putting it.
It's old fashioned, it's middle, who knows what they think.
It's too sweet. It's too sweet. That's the thing I hear all the time.
Exactly. So they decided to create this new product. The brand name is called Honey Thief, but it's not going to be labeled as mead, even though it is mead. They're just going to call it hard honey, which I love it. There's at least a couple other companies out there that I know of that are sort of going in that direction, that term hard honey. But so the word mead will not appear anywhere on the package. It will just be called hard honey, because the market research showed that people love honey. They just don't, when they hear mead, they think of something else. So when it's honey, it's great. When it's mead, it's somehow seen as not great. So, and I have mixed feelings on that myself, because I started with these products that in Europe were known as medovina, which it's literally just translates as honey wine. So I'm like, okay, the European word or the East European word is medovina. The English word is mead. What's the big deal? And then you find out that people have this sort of negative attitude. It's like, why? It's like beer. What's the difference? So
I've been to a Renfest where they drank this cloyingly sweet syrup.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess a lot of people have had that experience where they tried something that was just awful, and they got turned off. I wanted to tell you guys, you asked about the story. I also had the funny experience when I just got started. So after I had tried all these wonderful meads in Eastern Europe, and and I started to get the idea. Oh, I should import this stuff. At one point, we said, let's go to a wine festival and start learning about this a little bit more. And we went to the Boston Wine Expo, which has been a pretty big event.
Oh yeah, but that's nice.
There was a meadery there, and we're like, oh my God, this is great.
Who was it?
I won't name it because I don't.
Oh,
I don't like to besmirch.
No, I get you. I understand, but that just I won't name it means we're gonna hear something interesting.
This was the thing. I had never had any other mead other than the ones I'd tried in Eastern Europe. So
right.
Okay,
mead
this
here
cool.
is totally different.
Exactly. So by just kind of chance of the situation, my father-in-law was there, which is my wife's father is also from Eastern Europe. So we're like, oh boy, we go up to this table and we try this mead and we're like, wow, that's disgusting. and like, that was sort of when, and maybe if I could go back now and I know more about different styles and so on, I might have a slightly different opinion. I don't know. But that was sort of one of those moments where we said, we really have to do this because we can get mead that's way better than this.
Yeah. Well, and there are some out there that are, should not have been put in bottles on shelves, just saying. Yeah. I've run across a few of them. And again, like you say, not going to name names because I don't want to besmirch anybody like that. But fortunately, most of them kind of figure it out and start doing it better. But I see a lot of folks that get into it, and they're like, all my friends and my mom say my meat is awesome, so I'm going to go commercial. It's like, if you entered that into competition, have you gotten independent feedback? Because your friends and your mom don't count.
Them and every small brewery out there. Yep, you bet.
Yep, yeah. Nothing against your friends or your mom. I'm sure they're lovely people, but you're talking about spending an awful lot of money.
Yes,
you ought to make sure that you're good at this before you do this.
I mean, the good news is that the barrier to entry for meaderies is substantially smaller than breweries.
Oh yeah,
but it's still a good investment.
It's still a nice chunk of change, though. Yeah.
Good Lord, yeah. Hey, Vicky, I want to ask: are we doing an hour or 2 hours? I can't recall.
We can do. It's up to you. We block out 9 to 11. Some of them run an hour. Some of them run 3 hours. We've had them go way over a few times. We try to keep it under 2. So
no worries. I'm not on any agenda, but there was one thing I felt like would be important to talk about, just in terms of what I do in the industry, and that is sort of like the impact of the tariffs. And 2, just sort of the broader picture as far as the industry goes. And so, I mean, from what I do, and I'm an importer. So for all of your domestic folks, this is in a way somewhat irrelevant. But I've set up with this goal of, hey, let's bring into America these, some wonderful, international meads. And I've worked with people. I import from Europe, but I've worked with people from Central America, South America, Japan, different parts of Europe. Where else? Basically all over the world. And I'd like to bring them in, but the tariffs thing is big because, it's, on one hand, it's sort of a simple thing to understand that, hey, it's adding an extra cost to the product. But, a lot of the imported meads that are out there are already pretty high. And so the question becomes, is there a way to absorb some of this and still get it out there? I don't know what your exact listeners' experience is in terms of buying mead at the retail level, but a lot of it's out there, whether it's a $3.75 for $20 or $25 or a $7.50 for $40 or $50. It's expensive.
Or a $3.75 for $185.
Exactly.
Like the local stuff, you mean?
Yeah. There's stuff that's crazy expensive. So, my just as a kind of both as a business person, but also as a kind of a consumer, it's like, hey, it would be great if we could get this to a more kind of a normal level, whatever that number is. It's hard to say, but to a point where the average person can go out and pick up a bottle of mead without feeling like they're dropping, an arm and a leg. How do we get there? And the tariffs are certainly harming that, at least on an import level. So it's been a hard year. Right now nobody can really predict where it's going. So, I think there's a great, I saw a great, it was actually a podcast on Bloomberg, on the Bloomberg site, where they talked about the impact of tariffs on the wine market. And they said that on one hand, it should hurt, imported products and help domestic products, but it's not really that simple because, domestic producers, they say, okay, the importers can't bring in as much, or it's more expensive, or they're going out of business, whatever they're doing. So, hey, we can bump our prices. There's sort of all these ripple effects, and it's pretty hard to predict, where that's going. But so that, I guess the first part about that is just that, unfortunately for now, it's causing a rise on my side. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just. I mean,
it's just what it is. Yeah, costs are what they are.
They are what they are. I just had to give it, put it in the numbers. I just imported a container. It was almost exactly $100,000 worth of product, and that 10% tariff is 10% of that, and that's got to be paid right on the spot. So it's like, boom, check, $10,000 out the door, and so that that just essentially has to get split across all those bottles. So hopefully that'll either level out or go away. We don't know, but on the broader market, I'm seeing like some really good signs. And I would say in general it's very good. I mean, the Renaissance fairs seem to be doing really well. I'm doing really well with my online sales. I started to see, I'm probably nowhere near as tied in on the social media stuff as you are, but even I try just to kind of keep an eye on it. And I've seen posts lately like, hey, where can you buy some good mead? Or my local store doesn't have the mead that I was expecting, so, part of people
what I
want
see is the guys say that the mead that I make in my bathroom is way better than anything I've had commercially. And it's like, okay, you go with that. You have fun now.
Okay.
I'm going to back away slowly.
There are some mead makers who can make mead in their bathtub.
And it would be better than just about anything. Yeah. And I've had some of
them. But there are
mead
very few of those individuals alive.
Correct. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I see so often, I can't tell you how many times I've never had a commercial mead that was good. And it's like, then you've tried what? One?
Yeah.
Which is another discussion we have had so many times.
Oh my God, yeah.
You tried one beer and you decided you're never ever going to have another beer.
That's what I respond to them with, is you've tried one beer and decided all beer is sucky. Now you're aware that there are varieties and different styles and tastes and flavors and stuff.
You are speaking my language exactly, because a lot of times I'll go into retailers and I'll say, hey, I got these wonderful meads. And they'll say, oh, you know what?
That stuff doesn't sell.
Yeah, we had some mead in here and it didn't sell. It wasn't very good. And I'll say, I'll go to them and I'll say, well, so if you had, Milwaukee's Best and nobody bought it, would you be afraid to carry
Leinenkugel, like
Sierra Nevada or something,
Yingling, I mean, come on.
Exactly. So that's on the commercial side. That's something we got to overcome, is just to get the retailers to say, there's a range of products, they're coming from all over the world, different honey sources and so on, and so
sweetness seems to be the biggest stumbling block for a lot of people. I've had mead and it's too sweet. I didn't like it. It's like, okay, then you probably had one that was too sweet for you. But and I'll let them know, look, mead can be so dry, and I love to use the alliterations. And mead can be so dry, it's like eating sand in the Sahara, all the way up to so sweet your teeth fall out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get this look like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And we can add vegetables and fruit and spices and chili peppers and all kind. And marijuana. And, and there's actually a commercial meadery making a marijuana mead now. I just saw that not too long ago. I got to get my hands on some and try it.
Well, we need that like a hole in the head.
Oh, I know. You're right. But I still have to try it. I'm curious. I want to see if they figured it out. Because every weed mead that I've had so far tastes like weed, and weed tastes like skunk. And that's not good. I mean, I can handle it, in the marijuana itself, because that's what it smells like. But in something you're drinking, not so much, so.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And I think we all have to do it. Those of us in the industry and promoters, we got to try and get the retailers to consider a range of products, different sources.
You have to educate them. Do you have trouble getting them to, because one of the things I've noticed, and this is true in everything from local bottle shops all the way up to the big Walmart sized ones. Oh shoot, what's the one that?
Yeah, Total Wine and those.
That's it, Total Wine. Yeah, I was draw a blank there for a second. This is what happens when you get old. Just saying. But it's like the words just go away. But what I've noticed is you go looking for mead and it's on the bottom shelf.
Yes.
You know, obviously the desirable stuff's going to be at eye level ish. You know, eye level for me is like chest height for my husband, but never mind that. You know, they put it on the bottom shelf. It's only rarely on the caps. You know, and you know, getting them to put it in a place where it gets found. I mean, when I go to Total Wine, if I'm somewhere where there's a Total Wine, I stop by to see what they have because you can find weird and unusual things there sometimes.
Yes.
You know, and that's one of the few places, at least in my neck of the woods, that you could find both here and when I was in North Carolina, that you could find any imported stuff. So I could find British mead, stuff like that. But you know, that's it. Placement seems to be a real problem, and I think it's a lack of education. You know, it's like you're putting Bud Light at eye level. Dude, you could put Bud Light in the trash can, which is, by the way, where it belongs, and people would still buy it. You know? They'd still find it, and they would buy it, you know? So.
Where I'm in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is is a control state, so there's state liquor stores. And we've been in and out of the stores. Now we're in. We're actually, things are going well. We're in about 17 or 18 of them. But we had a couple rounds with it. And at one point, I had gotten one of my meads into one of the more prominent, stores that they have. And so I went in. I was like, oh, I wonder where it is. I just want to see it in there. It's always good to see your product on the shelf somewhere. And I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. I couldn't find it. And finally, I had to grab somebody. I was like, I know this product's here because I know how the system works and I know that you're carrying it, but I just can't find it. And they finally were like, oh yeah, I think I know where that is. And they showed me. And there was one spot in the store. And the New Hampshire liquor stores they're like a Total Wine. They're like a supermarket of booze.
Okay. Yeah, here in Michigan, they just spread the booze out, and it's everywhere. Gas stations, grocery stores.
I saw that.
You could probably go into like a Babies R Us, and they'd have it there. You know, I mean, it's just everywhere. You know?
I noticed that.
Formula in Michigan, right?
So I go in, and I'm like, there's one spot in the whole store where there's like a support beam in the middle of the store, and there was a shelf next to it, and on the very bottom shelf behind the beam was my mead. And I said,
my God.
It's like literally there is not a single worse place in this entire store where this product could be. I literally couldn't find it, even though I knew it was here. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's where it is. And I'm like, all right, thanks a lot. So yeah.
I'd be looking at the guy and going, all right, look, if I stack this on your dumpster out back, I'm going to get more throughput than this spot. You get that, right?
So it's to kind of summarize the point about the market. I do feel that there's more interest. The Renaissance fairs are going well. My online sales
it fits right in at Ren fairs. It fits right in. But I mean, you got to admit that mead is the redheaded stepchild of the alcohol industry.
Correct. Oh yeah, correct. And so the question is, how do we overcome that? I feel like the honey aspect of it is a good thing. People love honey. They love bees. They understand the importance of bees and how we can kind of, support everything from the honey industry to local beekeepers, et cetera, while drinking this lovely beverage that we all enjoy. So I don't know where the market's going. I can't predict that. I am seeing personally growing sales, which is a good thing, being a business person. I feel like if we can get more different types of mead, whether it's imported or just domestic sources, it will help. But I don't have the solution, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it's one of the conundrums of the ages, right up there with Philosopher's Stone and turning lead to gold kind of thing. Nobody really knows what it's going to take to get it there, which is really interesting because mead literally has been around for most of human history.
Oh yeah.
And there's tons of archaeological evidence proving that. It would say, God rest Dr. Pat, who passed away recently. He was the booze archaeologist. If you don't know, if those of you out there don't look up Dr. Patrick, or do look up Dr. Patrick McGovern, any of the books he's written about his archaeological work are stunning. They're amazing and they're awesome, and you should read them. Okay, sorry. Sidebar. It popped into my head when you were talking about that. But yeah, I mean, mead's been around for most of human history, and yet it just sort of fell off the map for a good 250 years or so.
Exactly.
As soon as sugar happened, and as soon as sugar.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's one of the biggest factors. You can
beet.
see it. You can see it directly in and this was something, because I used to do the living history in the Renaissance era. So mid to late 1500s England, and one of the things that happened there, I mean, there are dozens of books talking about all of the different things that happen, and the cultural changes and this versus that and all of that. And there's a lot on the alcohol of the time, and they made mead in like all the pubs. They made, people were making mead in their garage, or in their barns. I guess they wouldn't have garages then, that kind of thing. And then when sugar started coming in from the South Seas, all of a sudden you stop seeing any mention of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they colonized North America, you didn't see it there much either, although there are some mentions of it, like Martha Washington's cookbook has a mead recipe in it. But it's very thin. They were more into the hard stuff. Colonies, it was hard living in the colonies. We need booze, not mead. Okay, give us booze. But and I've done colonial era stuff too, so I've had to do my research on that, because I do demos on beverages of the period. And it's wild, because it just it should be more popular than it is.
You just reminded me of something exciting that I should tell you about. So are you familiar with Augustovska?
Oh yeah, I've been to Augustovka. Yeah. They took me into the woods to see the beehives. It was awesome. Yeah, I stayed at their place for like 3 days. They drove me up to Augustova, and I hung out there for a couple days, and they took me around and showed me everything.
So you know Piotr.
Oh yeah, Piotr. Yeah, it's really fun. So he has no English, I have no Polish, and yet we managed to talk to each other for like a 5-hour drive to Augustova.
It doesn't matter.
Go figure. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe you might know about this through the grapevine or mead vine, I guess would be the word. But so he and his team, and I guess some other partners of theirs, over the last, I don't know when, year or two, actually a couple of years, I'm looking at this message here, a couple of years ago, they discovered mead that was essentially, honey that was essentially something like petrified in these ancient trees. In these
almost amber.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at
the last time I was there was in 2019 at the first Mead Madness Cup.
Yeah.
Because I spoke at the show that year, or at the conference that year. But I haven't been out there since then. But that's amazing.
This would have been since then. So a few years ago, him and a couple of other guys, they found, I guess they were, I don't know how they found it. Maybe it was some loggers or something. But somebody was cutting trees, and they found, oh my gosh, this tree has honey in it, but it's petrified, and it's like essentially, I think he estimated 1,000 years old, something like that. And so they decided to try and collect, a certain quantity of this. And I think they went to they found a few different similar types of situations, and they've made a mead out of it. And they've got a grand total of 360 bottles. And I think they're going to be, looking at this message, I think they're going to be either 375 or 500 milliliters. But they want to sell them as the world's most exclusive mead.
And it would be. I mean, how many people who have access to something like that? I mean, the fact that their honey comes from tree hives is in and of itself unique.
Exactly. So they're going to do, I'm quickly calculating, basically they're talking about $1,500 a bottle.
I was going to tell you to hold one for me, but now I'm just going to say, wow, but that's great.
he asked me. He said, "Do you want to import this stuff to America? And I'll send you, so many bottles." And I'm like, "Well, geez, because, that would be like the retail price. The price to me is not quite that high, but still pretty high." And so, back to you were asking about payment. I said to him, I said, "Look, if you want to send me some of these bottles, and then let me pay you after I sell them, maybe we can work that out. But I don't have the money to pay from up front." But
dude, you have to understand that first we have to create the buzz around this.
Yes.
Pun intended. I mean, basically, you'd have to turn it into a Heart of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, that's an uphill battle for that kind of. I mean, I get it and I understand, but getting somebody to cough up $1,500 for a $375 is good.
Well, it's basically going to the collector's market. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
The regular folks like us, it's not for drinking, it's for collecting. And
no, it's for saying that you've got a bottle of it. Yeah, I mean, the hard part for me would be when I get my hands on something exclusive like that, I want to share it with my friends.
Yes.
Right.
I want to share with my mead friends, So like, for instance, if I so I went to my 40th college reunion 2 weekends ago, and we hooked up with like 4 of our college roommates, my husband's roommates when he was in the dorms. And we all got together and we had a grand weekend and it was tons of fun. And I took like a half a case of mead because I don't go anywhere without mead. And the guys just sucked it down like there was no tomorrow and they loved it. But I wouldn't like bring out the really special stuff for them because their palates aren't ready for it. They aren't in a place to truly appreciate it. And maybe that's a little elitist of me, but
I think it's fair.
I would take it to Valkyrie's where I know that I'm going to have a bunch of friends who are mead connoisseurs, who are really going to be into it and be able to really appreciate it at the level it needs to be appreciated.
I brought mead to a 50th high school class reunion for my wife this past weekend, and I brought good mead, but I did not bring.
You don't bring the best stuff,
my best to show type meads.
No, because they don't get it. They don't understand.
They wouldn't understand it.
It's only going to be appreciated by people who know it.
Whereas you could bring that out with us, and we'd be like, "Jeebus, Kevin, how many medals did you take with this thing?"
Which isn't the point. The point, though, is that it's like really superior quality mead, and those are the people you want to share it with because they can truly appreciate what's involved.
Yeah. Well, I've been taking more better stuff to. I take mead to every single one of my bee club meetings. And I'm in 2 different bee clubs, one south of me and one north of me, because there isn't one locally. And so I just take mead with it because they always have snacks during the break, And so people bring like cookies and chips and dip and whatnot. And so I'll bring a couple bottles of mead, and that's usually the first thing that disappears every single time. And then I get a call from Michigan Michigan Beekeeping Conference. They're like, "We want you to speak," and I'm like, I don't know anything about bees. I just started. I'm like a total noob. 2 of my hives already absconded, for God's sake. You don't want me anywhere near the bees, and they're like, no, we want you to talk about mead. And I was like, awesome. But so I'm going to be taking some of my stuff to share with them, and I'm also going to take some other things to let people sample during the gathering things, because they're having a gathering at Blom Meadery in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Those guys.
I haven't been there yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I haven't been there either, but I met one of their people who came to the comp a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay. I may have run across them, but I guess I'll know them when I see them. I meet so many people and I can't keep track of them all sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's so now with the bee club though, I'm taking better meads as we move along because they're getting more sophisticated at it, with the mead. And they ask really good questions too. So.
I wanted to say about this exclusive Polish mead. Apparently, according to Piotr, that back in the day when beehives were mostly in wild forests or whatever, the honey collectors would make a mark on the tree to sort of remember, okay, this is the tree where I found good honey up there, and so each different bee collector would use a different mark, and they called that their signum, like from Latin for sign. So the exclusive mead will be called signum, indicate the
Alright.
beekeeper's mark. But we'll see. I'll let you know if I actually get it, and if I do, I'll do what I can to somehow find you a bottle.
Cool. I would like that very much.
Yeah, I can maybe make a case for marketing that Vicky just really needs a bottle to
Research. It's research.
Yeah.
That's what most of the guys that go commercial, they're like, can I like write off drinking mead? I said, dude, you got to find out what works, what's good, what's right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's market research. You can write that off. I do.
Yeah.
Have been for years. I wrote off an RV trip, 10-week long RV trip around the country.
Yep.
Because I was visiting meaderies, I was promoting those meaderies, I was doing work, doing my podcasts on the road, so I did all of that stuff, and it was like, this is cool, I'm the Barbara Walters to the meat industry, so got to do my job.
Absolutely.
For those that are old enough to know who Barbara Walters is, all those youngsters are out there going, who?
Barbara Wawa.
Yeah, Baba Wawa. Yep. If you're an SNL fan, yeah, Baba Wawa. Hi, I'm Baba Wawa.
Hey, as far as drinking mead and kind of looking at the market and that, we didn't really mention the cocktails and the sort of alternative ways of drinking mead. I think that's another area of growth, is especially like you have the elderflower, which you need to try that, because it's a great ingredient for a cocktail. And I tell, whenever I meet bartenders, of course I'm always trying to sell, it's my job, so I'll say, anything that you would any drink you would make that has a sweet ingredient, or you're looking for a unique flavor that you can't get somewhere else, splash some mead in there. Mm-hmm. And then I've got one of the Polish meads that I import. It's essentially a spiced mead, or I guess metheglin, I think is the right term. And I just drink it over ice in the middle of summer. It's fantastic. Maybe splash some mint in there.
Yeah.
And then I've all these the sort of the ready to drink cans out there. I haven't done it yet. I'm not really in a position. I'm not a mead maker or producer, but I feel like there'd be a great market for some sort of, I'm not talking about a carbonated mead or something like that, but a mead based.
Oh, we have lots of those.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of them. I mean, at least they're not.
Oh, dude, you're not hanging out in the right places.
Oh, really?
Seriously, there is a crap load of carbonated meads out there, and most of them are sessions. You do get the occasional
those
filet
I see. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about like different ideas I've had. It's like like a mead and tea, mead and iced tea, or a mead and tonic, or
mead tails.
Mead tails, essentially. Yeah. And
Well, there's a number of meaderies that are doing those in the meadery, and there's a mead maker in New York who makes mead specifically to be made into cocktails. His partner is a master cocktail maker, or whatever the sommelier level cocktail making is. I can't remember. There's a name for it, and I just totally missing out on the name. Yeah,
maybe mixologist or something like that.
A mixologist. Yeah, he's like a master mixologist, and it was interesting because I got invited to speak at Tales of the Cocktail in New Orleans. Oh God, 7-8 years ago, and seems like all the years run together, But so New Orleans in July. Needless to say, Vicky didn't go outside. I was staying in the air conditioning. But they asked me to give a talk about mead, and there's all these mixologists there who had so many interesting questions about how can we incorporate this into what we're doing, and it was fantastic because there was so much interest, so these were people that don't make mead, they don't necessarily drink mead, but they want to use it in their creations. And then there's also, like I say, there's meaderies that are taking it upon themselves to create mead tails with their meads. So,
well, and the cool part is that for the most part, with some exceptions, it's generally shelf stable, so that they can use it as an ingredient, splash here, splash there. And I guess my only the question that I have, being on my side of the industry, is, how do we get enough people? I mean, every bar has a bottle of triple sec and this and that. How do we get to it that every bar has a couple of bottles of mead that they can splash into something? And I wish I knew the answer to that.
Well, see, now that's where you want to get it in front of. At the cocktail conferences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the people that would make that happen. Problem is that your normal local pub doesn't tend to have a master mixologist on staff, generally speaking. But word gets around in the industry as well. So, it's something. I mean, that's basically, you have to go to them, I would think. And say, hey, you know what? This would be really amazing if you brought this into a Moscow Mule, or or whatever. But that's, I think, the only way that's going to happen. Really, is just go to the people that figure out how to make this stuff. The guy that invented Harvey Wallbangers. I mean, I don't know.
I hate that guy.
I know, right?
Experience in high school.
I know. Harvey Wallbang. It was just it was that, and the other fun one that the high school kids would talk about was slow screw up against the wall.
Slow comfortable screw up against the wall.
Slow comfortable. There's like half a dozen different variations on that thing. Yeah, it's hilarious.
I remember the Harvey Wallbanger. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, well, and my favorite in college, Pink Squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was Slow Gen and.
Is that what you see afterwards, or no? That's Pink Elephants.
No, that's Pink Elephants. That's what you see when you've had too many pink squirrels. But yeah, Brian's over there going, "These people are crazy." It's a good kind of crazy. Trust me.
So these conversations have a tendency to take left turns. So.
Or do U-turns, or anything can happen.
By the way, speaking of left turns.
Speaking of, that's where I was going. Go for it. Yeah, I know where you're going.
So I don't see any emails from Nathan, but I believe
he texted me.
Because
the site was hacked last week. Remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. We got to get over to that page. All right, here we go. We're going to fire up the Nathan questions. And so, Brian, I don't know if you've listened to a few episodes, but Nathan is one of my local mead mafia guys, and a very reliable and also thoughtful and somewhat complicated questioner.
All right.
And you should just appreciate the fact that he doesn't submit them in Latin. Just
That's also true.
Because
but it does require that you pay a certain amount of attention to the questions. They tend to be involved. So we're going to start with one here. Considering the association of fine wine and the arts, can you tell us more about your relationship with Peterborough Players Theatre Company, and if perhaps sampling of meads during their summer series has opened any new audiences to what mead can bring to enjoyment for the uninitiated?
Wow.
Yeah, we weren't kidding. Yeah.
That's quite the question. Very, very interesting question.
And he also has Google Foo, like very few people I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yes, I can answer that question. Wow, it's a good one. So we are in out where we live and where our company is legally based is in southwestern New Hampshire. And what a funny thing, just to kind of highlight the aspect of being an importer. We've been doing this for a long time, and all the people we work with around us, when we try to sell them mead, they get the same question. You get it here everywhere. Is it local? Are you local? Is it local? And we'll say, well, actually, no.
We are, but the stuff we got is coming from the other side of the pond.
We import stuff, but we're a local company. And the funny thing is, we have a few companies right around our area that are. This is not a major metropolitan area. We're kind of in the sticks. And
they have sticks in New Hampshire? Dang.
Yes, we have a lot of sticks in New Hampshire. And so we have a couple of companies that are very prominent. One of them makes chocolate, and the other one makes basically salves and balms, and they do very well. I mean, these are big companies, and so and everyone thinks that's a great local company. Get some local chocolate. Let's get some local, these salves. I'm like, you understand that the cocoa and stuff is coming from like Africa, right?
Right. Yeah. We don't grow that here in the United States. Just saying. Yeah.
And the company that makes the salves and the bombs, their stuff is all olive oil based. And I know, because I know the people, they get all that from Spain. So I'm like, you're treating this salve and this chocolate as a local product, but really it's an imported product. And I'm like, so we have an imported product, but we're a local company and we'd like to sell it as a local product, but we don't get the benefit of the doubt on that one. So anyway, we try very hard to network and work with our local community and so on to try and kind of promote ourselves like any company might. And there's a local theater house here called the Peterborough Players, and they're really great. They're small, but they bring in actors, famous actors, somewhat known actors, Broadway actors, and so on. And they do a summer series every summer. And back a number of years ago, we were sort of the in-house. Let's say wine and mead. How would you say it? Actually, sponsor is really what we were. And so for one summer, we showed up every night with some mead and some wine, and people could taste it. They could buy it by the glass, and it went really well for us. It was kind of pretty early on in our business, and it was great to connect. To kind of answer the question, it was great to connect with that arts community. I found people there were really open to it. They, I didn't come across them and say, "Oh, it's mead." I'm not interested in that because I heard something or this and that. Everybody wanted to try it, and we got I would say we got a lot of fans from it. Our barrique mead, which is barrel aged mead, we kind of promoted that as the premier mead, which we really believe it is, and everybody. Yeah, they were all like, "Oh, this is," they sort of took that. Yeah, this is the best one, and so. We found that community was very receptive, and
Nice.
they enjoyed it, and we did very well with them. We didn't keep that relationship alive for very long, just because it was a sponsorship essentially. So we were essentially paying to be part of the community there, in that kind of relationship. But it was wonderful to join it, and we definitely got some positive feedback.
Nice.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so continuing on with the Nathan theme, and I do need to get with him pretty soon here, actually. I understand you found there to be more experimental varieties available in the Slovakian and Czech Republic compared to the traditional Polish meads due to the absence of the same rules or strict production limitations. What does that provide your company in the way of an expanded library of these spiced meads?
Great question. Absolutely great question. So I would say that mead, at least in Eastern Europe, is, Europeans often talk about the American beer market as being sort of super experimental. They play around within certain parameters, and you can certainly find lots of different interesting types of beer there, but you don't find nearly as much variety in Europe as you do in the States. And I would say that's, at least in what I've observed, there's a little bit of consistency with that, comparing Eastern Europe to America. So not long after we got started, we got invited to a tasting here in New Hampshire with Moonlight Meadery, and we were really excited. And I don't remember how many they tasted at the tasting, but I knew at that time they had something like 54 different meads that they were offering. And I remember being really shocked at that, because the meaderies that we were working with had 3, 4, 5, something like that. It is true that the Polish meads are very, I guess, I want to be careful so I don't misspeak in case I'm not 100% accurate, but I understand it to be fairly strictly regulated in terms of what you can put in and how what you can call it and so on. But you're right, and the question is right, that in other parts of Europe, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and elsewhere, I don't believe they have those same kind of rules. So you see more in terms of flavorings and different combinations with different herbs and so on. So I have to say that I'm a little bit on the fence, really, because I tend to be kind of a purist in my thinking, just as from a personal perspective. It's sort of like you make something good and then you don't mess with it. However, you know, at the same time, every now and again, somebody pours something for you or offers you something that is totally different, and you might be skeptical, and then you're like, whoa, that knocked my socks off. So in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, and I've even had some really interesting Ukrainian meads. Yeah, you definitely find some experimental stuff, and for the most part, the people are very diligent about what they're doing. So it's not like I tried this, I tried that, you're going to love it. It's sort of like a process of really figuring out what the right recipe is. And you know, and I'm a big believer in Polish meads. You know, they just really seem to sort of have a way of doing it that works, and I love it.
It's the only region on the planet that's had a continuous mead tradition for thousands.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I mean, I don't know if this exactly answers the question, but I think it's certainly related. So I was at one year I was at the Mazer Cup, and during, I'm sure you remember the mead mixer they would have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just going around, you know, and I'm carefully, not trying to overdo it, but certainly tasting, you know, as much as I can, and hitting different tables and whatnot. And there were Polish, you know, home brewers or homemakers, domestic, I don't know what the term is there, you know, homemakers,
home mead makers, yeah.
home mead makers, who I had never heard of or never tried. And they were just so good. And I went up to one of the guys and I said, you know, I'm really partial to Eastern European mead. I said, you know, what is it that makes your mead so much better than some of these American meads I'm trying? And the guy just looked at me. You know, the European people tend to be pretty blunt. He just looked at me. He said, "Oh, that's because we're patient." And I was like, interesting. You know, and so
I think he's got something. He's actually put his finger on it there. He really has.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to you know, I have met some incredible American mead makers.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
anybody.
But we're a country in a hurry. We always have been. We're young and we're in a hurry. Europe, it just plods along because they've been doing it for thousands of years. And
you nailed it. Yeah. In fact, I recently, back last fall, I think it was, I was traveling and I kind of came across a mead maker very randomly, and he figured out what I did, and I figured out what he did. And he's like, "Oh, you got to try this." And he poured me like 8 different meads. And
that happened a lot.
There were like 3 of them that were really good, but some of, you know, it's just like, what did you pull this out of a hat, man? Like, what is going on? And I really loved the guy. Actually, I still have some of his mead here in my house. And, you know, I was like, I really admire that you're just kind of winging it, you know? And so, you know, I guess to the point is that, you know, in that part of Europe, especially, you find some really just traditional, you know, models that seem to work. You do find some people that are playing around with different things, but it tends to be, I can say, you know, I'll cite AppyMed. I've been working with them for a long time. And in the 20 plus years I've known them and been working with them, they've probably introduced, about maybe 5,
3 or 4 new meads.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah. Well, they got rules over there, so.
Yeah. They don't just like sort of whip something together and say, "Here, try this," you know. So it's a different model.
Yeah, here it's a guy going, "I wonder what happens if I put roasted corn in a mead."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people come up with, you know, wild and crazy ideas, and
like
some of them
really
work. Like taco mead, yeah. Some of them really, really work, and some of them not so much. You know, so it depends. You know, I mean, what sounds really cool to the person making it may or may not appeal to the general public. But yeah, and by the way, you know, I mean, I don't know if you could get AppyMed's in Poland, if I remember right. Slovakia. Okay, good. Then you need to get Paziaki Yados. You got to get them. Their meads are stunning.
I know them, and I've had their mead, and they were going to be included on the mead tour that I talked to you about.
Yeah, I remember.
And
So you need to have them in your import because I will be in line to buy that. I'm out of this. I think I've got one bottle left of the mead I brought back when I went to Poland. So
I'm afraid I gotta verify this. I'm afraid that they may have found another importer. I'm not sure. So I'll definitely reach out to them and just kind of find out.
Ask them because they're super nice folks. They're really
their
really
mead
cool
is so
people.
good. I know their product for sure.
Yeah, and the people are awesome. We took a tour of the place, and well, I've known them for years. I mean, they've been coming to the Mazer Cup practically since the beginning. And first it was the dad, and then he started bringing his son, who at the time was like really young, like maybe late teens, early 20s. And then now dad is still there, but he's sort of semi-retired. You know, he keeps his finger on things, but the son is mostly running the place. And you know, he's in his 40s now, and you know, and he's doing a great job with it. But they make their own pottery bottles for their special recipes.
Oh yeah,
way cool. So they showed us the pottery center where they make the bottles right there at the, you know, where the mead is made. So it's pretty cool. And we got a whole big talk about they're not using, we use sulfites and sulfates to stop the ferment. They're using pasteurization. Yeah, which is a whole nother animal, but it works great. I mean, their meads are fantastic. So obviously it's not hurting the mead any.
Yeah, no, I've had their mead, and I know it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Yeah, their stuff is really, really, really good. So yeah, I really hope that they A, have the production level, and B, are willing to let you import them. I'd be keen on that, because as far as I know, they're not coming into this country.
I thought the last time I kind of did some research on them, it looked like maybe they had found a partner. But I was going to say, you know, the thing I didn't really, when I was talking about the business side of things, one of the things that comes up, so, you know, I'm aware of them. I know about their products. I know they're beautifully packaged and all that. So I can easily say, and I've talked to them. I mean, it's sort of like, yeah, we would love to do this. Bringing on a new product line is not, there's so many calculations that come in that it often comes down to either do I have an extra $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 laying around, which typically is not the case, or are they willing to sort of lay out, you know, the equivalent of that much money or that much product to kind of get the ball rolling. And it's not always easy to kind of make those numbers work. And so what, for example, what somebody like them might say, well, listen, you know, we understand you can't buy, you know, $200,000 worth of meat all at once. So, you know, how about if we do 2,000 or 3,000? The problem with that is that it's almost impossible to make any money on a couple, you know, so it becomes very, very tricky to sort of get the ball rolling. But I know in the case of Paxiaca Yaros, they're one of the ones that really should be imported to the United States.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Their stuff is great. We had, I'm trying to remember the name of the meadery that they were right with us at the very beginning of the Mazer, and actually did a lot of sponsoring and put a lot of money into, you know, and they were importing via Stosky at the time. And then, I don't know if they're still being imported now that Stosky's out of the meat importing business. So,
well, I'm wondering if that was was that either Apis or Corpo, maybe?
Corpo. It was Corpo. Thank you. Yes, it was Corpo.
Corpo is my part. I work with Corpo. Yeah.
You do? Okay. Yeah. Is Adam still working for him? Do you know?
Adam is still working for them. Yes, he is. Yeah, amazing guy.
He's a character. Yeah, he's
a big character.
Yeah, he's a character. He's a great guy, though. I really liked. They would come over every year, and they were the ones that first invited me to visit Poland. And at the time, I was like, I don't really know you that well, you know? Not realizing this is just European. Yeah, I didn't know any better. You know, it was like, no. Once I figured that out, it was like, you know, when the Augustova guys, you know, they were like, oh yeah, come up, you can stay in my daughter's bedroom. Okay.
Well, they are.
They're awesome. I was wonderful. I spent 3 days hanging out with their family. You know, it was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool, and I've had those experiences, and that actually has been those kind of experiences that you just described has often been sort of the basis of some of this stuff where you just you get to know each other, you have a few drinks.
Yep. They invite you to their house and they feed you dinner. And yeah.
And you say, okay, we got to make this happen. And I wish I could work with an import, every partner I meet like that, assuming that they got some good stuff, which they usually do. But
I can help you steer. I can help steer you on that because I've had a fair number of them, so I can at least give you some stuff. Yeah.
I know you can, and that's our goal. So just to kind of also summarize on that on the business side, it's like the scale of numbers. If we and other, I would say not just me, but others in the industry can kind of get up to where mead sort of takes on, some sort of a meaningful market share. I don't know what that number really is, but something that the numbers start to work, then we can find all these unique producers and bring them in. I remember one of my inspirations I was sort of on the fence about starting the import business, and I was listening to a radio show that they were just happened to be interviewing some guys that were importing spirits. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me listen to this. And they're interviewing. They said, oh, what do you import? And they said, oh, we focus on vodka. And they said, oh, really? What do you have? They said, our main product is a Polish vodka that we discovered. And they said, oh, how are you doing? What's your, what are your sales like? And he said, oh, well, last year we imported 2 million bottles. And they said, how much are you making on a bottle? And he said, oh, between $1 and $2. And I was like, those numbers add up. Those are good numbers. But, we've never come anywhere near selling, we're almost to 7 figures with one of our product lines. I won't name which one, doesn't matter. But, we're sort of after a number of years of just selling and, pounding the pavement and so on, we're sort of approaching a grand total of almost $1 million across the product line.
Nice.
It's very significant and we're thrilled. But, compare that to vodka where you might sell a couple million bottles a year, and you're not even a big player. So
yeah, right. And that's just the cheap stuff,
Yeah, and it was absolutely the cheap stuff.
Right.
We just figured we would find some cheap stuff and sell it. So, my question as what I do is like, how do I find some, I don't know whether it's the good stuff, the great stuff, the average stuff, I don't know, but the right product that is, the right mead that somehow kind of catches a market and people discover it and we sell some product.
Yeah, there's a meadery in Greece. I would love to see their stuff over here, and I'll have to see if I can track down their name, but I met them at the first Mead Madness, and they had a mead that was made with, oh God, what was it? A sage honey. And I'm pretty sure it was a sage honey, and it was stunning. It was absolutely blew me out of the water. And they're like, you should come visit, and I'm like, I would love to, but I don't have that much money.
You can stay in my daughter's room.
Yeah, right. Hey, I'd be totally down for that. I'd totally do it, But yeah, it's like even right now, even just a plane ticket to get over there is out of my reach at the moment. So I've got every penny I own is in home renovations at the moment because we've got some fairly important stuff that has to happen in a 50-year-old house. So.
No, you were telling me, and I'm the same. Everything's tied up in my, cash flow with payments.
You're right. Yeah, it's like disposable income. What's that?
Disposed of, thanks.
Yeah, it got disposed of before. I don't have any to dispose of, but yeah. Okay, so while we're on this subject, then here's another Nathan question. Bulgaria and Slovakia are two European countries that, while geographically distant, share diplomatic and growing economic ties, with the Bulgarian diaspora in Slovakia contributing to the cultural exchange. Have you been exploring other connections with bringing producers like Meadly and Bulgarian Honey Company meads on board?
Absolutely is a connection. So I know that culturally and economically, Bulgaria and Slovakia have been connected for a long time. I mean, going way back into the communist era and even before. Bulgaria is a site of sort of travel and tourist destination in Slovakia. My greater knowledge and experience with Bulgaria as a connection with honey and mead is actually with Poland. So one of the main companies that I work with in Poland sources, I want to say much. I'm hesitant to say most of because I don't know that. I know I can say safely much of. I don't know what the percentage is. They source much of their honey from Bulgaria. I think the rest of it comes from a combination of Ukraine and Poland. But from what I know from talking to my partners, Bulgarian honey is amazing. There's a great culture there, not only of honey production, but yes, of mead production, of wine production, and so on. So it does seem from my experience a very natural partner. I have not actually tasted any Bulgarian mead that I know of. I don't remember anyone sending me any samples or anything like that.
I haven't either, and I've been doing this 30 years. So.
I know. Yeah, I think it's just it's funny because it's there. I mean, they're EU, they're part of it, but it's just that much further sort of away.
It takes time to develop those relationships. And
yeah, exactly. So I don't know that there's anything in the works. I've never seen anything come in for the Mazer Cup or anything like that.
No, me neither. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
No,
I was there for like the first 7 years or so, and then I stepped away.
Yeah, and you would have. So, but I do know that their honey is making it into Polish meads.
Okay.
And I know that it is considered in the honey market, the global honey marketplace, as essentially a premium source of honey. So it's from the kind of the cultural and economic connections. I know that those connections are growing. It's just like as the EU gets more and more integrated, just like here in the United States, people find connections to do business and trade across distances. And I expect Bulgaria will become more known globally for their honey and perhaps ultimately for their mead exports.
Nice. One you might want to take a look at is Kinsale Mead in Ireland. It's the only meadery in Ireland. They get most of their honey from Spain, mainly because, and this is so wild, hardly any honey is produced in Ireland. As green and floral as that country is,
yeah,
and yet they just don't have the bees. So it's I remember because when Mike Fall, when he's Irish, and he still has family over there, and he went over there and he actually opened up like a small meadery there, and he was able to do exactly one mead with Irish honey, and it was a very limited production. He basically scraped up every scrap of honey he could find throughout the entire country to make it. And I managed to get a bottle of it. So I'll have to bring that with me. Maybe I'll bring that to the Michigan Mead Cup.
How do you spell that?
Kinsale, Kinsale.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. I actually visited them, and my niece got married in Ireland last summer, or summer before last, or not this summer, but last summer. Anyway, but I was over there and I knew that they were there. So I connected with the owners and said, hey, I'm going to be here for a wedding. How far are you? She's like, we're about a 2-hour drive. Great. I'll see you the day after the wedding. And we drove down there to check it out. And you go past, oh shoot. What's the name of the place that makes the mead with the E on the end of it?
Oh God. I think that's the thing. So
it's not actually mead, but
right, exactly. I know what you're talking about.
It's white wine with honey and spices.
Bunratty.
Yeah, Bunratty. Thank you.
Bunratty.
You drive right past the Bunratty factory, and Kinsale is just a little shop in a tiny little town in southeast Ireland. Southwest Ireland. And but yeah, Kinsale's great. The folks that own it are wonderful people, and their mead is stunning. It's very good, and they've got a number of different things. So.
I approached a distributor out west, won't say the name and where and all that, but I approached him recently and I said, hey, I'm looking for distribution in your state. I've got these amazing meads. You interested? And the guy said, oh, no, we're not interested at all. I said, can you tell me why? I said, well, we already have a line of mead that we sell, so we wouldn't want to, carry multiple ones. And I said, which one do you carry? And they said, Bunratty. And I was like, oh, do you know?
That's not mead, right? You know that, right? Yeah.
And they were like, no. And I was like, whatever. We'll find somebody else.
Yeah. That's like the Budweiser of European meads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had it's not. It doesn't suck, but it also isn't mead.
It's tasty, but it's not mead.
Thank you. Yes, it's tasty, but it's not mead. And that's the thing and it says right on the label, it's not mead. It says MEADE, and underneath it says white wine with honey and spices added. I was bummed to find out Lindisfarne is like that, because I thought Lindisfarne was just like the bee's knees,
Mm.
you know. And it's cool because it's on this little island that you can only access when the tide is out and blah blah blah. It was very cool, you know. But yeah, I was very disappointed to find that out.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to be in the UK. You have to be aware. For whatever reason, there are some really amazing meads and there are some real groaners there.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why they are like that, because they shouldn't be. They've got, if nothing, they've probably got the best history with mead of any other European country besides Poland.
Yeah.
And, well, the Eastern European countries, you know, so the previous SSRs, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what Peter from Nidhogger's always saying. He's like, hey, you know, there's all these companies, and you know, I don't know what they're all called or how many of them are, but they're out there. And he's like, most of them are not really selling a true mead.
Not really, no.
And he's like, you know, they're just not that good.
No. Yeah. AJ, what was the one that you used to be able to get?
Moniac.
Thank you, Moniac. I went to the Moniac. They actually had the meadery in Moniac Castle in northern Scotland, and I went there when I was in Scotland. And it made me laugh when you said that you were in Europe when 9/11 happened, because I booked my tickets on 9/12 to go to the UK. Like, wow. You know, I'm an American. No one's gonna stop me from going wherever I want. Terrorists can bite my butt, you know.
Yeah,
and not to mention the fact that the airline tickets were super cheap right there.
Oh yeah,
and a round trip to England for like $300. You know, I was like, cool. But we basically took a driving trip all over England and Scotland, and I went to the Moniac Castle because I'm big into that history, and it was just really, really cool. But that was when they were still doing it, and then they got bought out by Scottish Mead Company, I think it was. And I guess from what I heard, the quality went way down. I haven't gotten it doesn't import here, so I haven't been able to get any since.
I actually haven't had any since they've done that, so I cannot attest to whether the quality has gone down or not. The only bottles I've got of Moniac are still really old, and I haven't opened them yet.
Yeah. I know, it's wild, you know. So there's a lot of variation in the UK, at least that I've seen. And now I don't know how much has changed, because again, I was there in 2002, so it's been 24 years now, or 23 years. And there's since then the mead industry there has gone gangbusters. So there's several really good ones, and I've had 3 or 4 of them on the show. But there's a bunch of the older ones that have been around for a while that they're sort of, it's like they make mead as an afterthought. That's the way it comes across, you know, when you look at their places. They got like a restaurant and a hostel and blah blah blah. Oh, and we make mead.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because with Apimed, that, you know, kind of one of my main partners, they created something, they call it Meadowlandia, which I guess you could loosely translate as Meadland. And it is absolutely incredible. It's like Disneyland of mead.
Oh, cool!
I'm not exaggerating at all. Like it is unbelievable. They have, I mean, their tasting room rivals any tasting room you've ever seen in your life.
Nice.
They have, you know, they I said it's like the Disneyland. They have the world's largest honey drop. It's not really made from honey. It's a glass, but it's like 75 feet high. And they basically, everything is about mead.
That's really cool, though. I think that's really neat. I've had Apimed several times, and I got to visit with them at their booth at a beer fest when I was in Poland. And they had a booth there, but I've not been to their location yet. So.
Yeah, I had wanted to include that on the mead tour there. Because it's so incredible. It's just like, are you serious that anybody could do this? I'm gonna.
Have you been to the mead store in Prague, where you can buy like demi-johns of mead to take away for like $75 US? It's like stupid cheap.
No, I have not been there yet, but we know the people. We've talked to them many times. We were going to go there as part of our mead tour, and one of these days we'll get there for sure.
You're talking about doing it again next year. Okay, so since we're running out of time, let's come back around to the mead tour. We haven't talked about that, and I know it didn't come out the way you wanted it to this year, but you're going to do this again next year. So tell us what's going on with that, so we can get people interested. Because I think it's fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly. So we kind of we sort of last minute it, organized it this year, and it just didn't really come together.
Yeah, we did the best we could, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
You need more time for like a week-long European trip.
Exactly. So the whole concept is, and you can probably find, I would say, at least hundreds, if not more than hundreds, of European wine tours. I mean, go to Burgundy, go to Bordeaux, go to Italy, whatever, Sicily. They're all over. And I thought, nobody that I know of is doing a European mead tour. So I said, if people like to go to Europe and go around and taste wine, why wouldn't they like to go around and taste mead? And so, naturally, I have my own sort of connections and my area of expertise. So I said, my area of expertise is Central Europe. That would be Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland. Mm-hmm. So the way I envisioned it was that we would fly into Prague and immediately go to the mead museum that you mentioned, where they have meads from all over the world, and they do tastings, and you can basically see a little bit of everything that the world has to offer a mead, and then kind of go from there. I wanted to visit, obviously spend some time in Prague, but then go and visit a meadery in Czech Republic, and then move on to Slovakia. Slovakia has, for anybody who might not really know this or be aware, they have some of the, I would say, really the best meaderies in the world. I know from firsthand observation and from tasting and judging, these are really some of the best. And go over there and have the dining experience, the mead tasting experience, the cultural experience, and then go on to Poland, where I don't want to place it
or mead
higher
is a
or lower.
Thing.
The mead is it's on another almost level. So go up to we wanted to go to Łódź, which is where
Łódź,
that's where Corpo is based, and from there you can go to Pasieko Jaros and one or two others.
Up to Augustova. That'd be cool if you could do that too, because they're right up against Belarus. I mean, one of the things they did while I was there was they took me up to the border with Belarus, and I stood with my foot on either side of the border.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And they're like, "Don't go any closer; they'll shoot you." I'm like, "Okay."
Exactly.
I'm from a country where that doesn't happen real often.
Yeah. And then we would finish at Apis. Apis is on the border with Ukraine, and they're just incredible. I believe that they are. I have no other example that I know of. I think they're the world's oldest commercial meadery. They're just about 100 years old right now, and so
they've been around. I think they've been around the longest. I actually did Mead in History as my talk at the Mead Madness. I think you're right.
Yeah,
it's the oldest one I found. Let's put it that way.
I don't know of any others exactly. So that was the concept. I think we wanted to do it. I think it was 10 days total, including travel or something like that. And just to make the most of it. And of course we we wanted to build in room for other stuff. Obviously Czech Republic is famous for their beer as well. Slovakia has a great wine, and Poland has a great culture and food and so on. So just kind of taste everything and see it all, and offer. I don't think there are too many tours that you would normally find out there that would say, hey, the main areas Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Poland. There might be a couple, but we wanted to offer something different. Hopefully next year we'll get a group of people to go. And I would just add one more thing. Actually, my idea with at least the first run was that we would get people from the industry, if not exclusively, at least mostly, because, whether it's somebody, just picking names of whether it's somebody from B Nectar or, somebody, just pick a company out there making mead. Hey, you're a player in the American mead market. You sell a lot of mead, and you got a lot of customers doing, interested and so on. Why don't you go and see what they're doing overseas? And I want to do, on hands-on, questions, see what they're doing, try the different flavors, and just kind of get us, especially with Apimed, they basically have built mead tourism into what they're doing. So
That's
get
smart.
out. How can you model what they're doing and bring that over here? So that was the idea. I don't know if I can still kind of find a way to tap into that, but hopefully I can.
Worth a try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say happy to help if I can. So.
Yeah, as we get more concrete on what we're doing for next year, I'll definitely share it back with you, and hope.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If nothing else, I want to find out if it's something I could save up for. I'd love to go on that. Every time I announced it on the upcoming events thing, and while we had you running as a sponsor, it was like I really want to go.
Yeah, if we get lucky, right now the dollar's down a little bit.
It is, yeah.
Dollar comes back up, it'll be a little cheaper next year. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. But so we'd love to have. I think I've done some of these before. I did a wine tour one time with a group of people, and I've done other tours of people who wanted to learn about history and so on. And when they're done right, you get the right group of people. They're so fun. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I've got a buddy that does foodie tours in Morocco. He's Moroccan. And I've just been, every time he talks about it, I'm like, God, Rich, stop. Dude, you're killing me here. I want to go.
Yeah, this isn't fair.
Yeah, it's not, you're just being mean now. But yeah, it's just, I think it would be a good thing though to do that. And now you got the better part of a year to build that up.
Yeah, we're gonna do it next year for sure.
Yeah. We do have one last Nathan question, if you're interested.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, so put your thinking cap on. With your expansion of Spanish wines, do you also have intentions to bring such recently highlighted mead producers like Tribaruna Hidromel from Catalonia, Spain, to access through your marketplace?
Great question, for sure. Yes, so when it comes to, I didn't say this at the beginning, but you mentioned the name of our company, Centeur Imports. That is a made-up word, Centeur. We made it up as kind of a combination of Central Europe, because we wanted our company to focus on Central Europe. But as we kind of grew and got connected in the industry, we realized, hey, why limit ourselves to one place? There's good products all over Europe, all over the world. So let's see what we can find. And so it didn't take long before we got connected with some really interesting winemakers and other people in Spain. And that kind of became another focus for us in terms of where we would go and travel and look for products. And so we've had a couple lines of Spanish wine going back now 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have had at least 2 Spanish meads that I can recall in my experience working with Mesa Cup for importing for Mesa Cup. So I'm trying to remember the names of the company. I don't think it was the one that was mentioned in the question, but I remember thinking, cool, because Spain, Spanish people are very proud. They're very proud of their products. Mm-hmm. They love their own wine and the other products is there. And actually, there was at one point
Mexico's like that too, and they're trying to build their mead. Mead makers are trying to build their meadery. When I went down there, when Kevin and I were down there for Copa Hidromel, and it was interesting as we got to find out a little bit more. They got an uphill battle there, though.
I talked to one, I would say, a very good meadery in Guadalajara. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Central and Southern America with mead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Even in Guatemala, there's some action happening. Costa Rica for sure. But we at one point I tried, because I had the connections with Spain and with Central and Eastern Europe. I actually tried to help some of our mead producers try to sell to Spain, and they were like, "Yeah, it's just never going to happen. Nobody's going to buy, product from this part of the world." So apparently now, I guess, as we're seeing, I'm seeing it in Japan, in South Korea, in other places. It's just one of those things. Like if you open up a meadery and there's none of them anywhere else around, people will show up, they'll try it, they'll drink it, and it can take off. I don't know the company that was mentioned in the question. I do know a couple of Spanish meaderies. I have the opportunity. I go there from time to time. I guess what I could say is that the next time I go, I'll see what I can find in terms of what's around and if it's worth.
Oh, they've got some nice honey there. I can tell you that. That's where Kinsale gets their honey because again,
Okay.
no honey in Ireland. So, but
Yeah.
she gets Spanish orange blossom is divine, and their wildflower is pretty darn nice too. So, but the orange blossom is really interesting because it's Spanish orange blossom as opposed to Florida, California, or Mexican orange blossom, all of which are unique. It's so interesting.
Which
Yeah,
you would
so
expect, honestly, but when like in the American market, we're used to people blending everything together and taking all the varietal characteristics away. So
Yeah.
when we encounter these things that come from a specific terroir, it's like eye-opening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all the Appy. I didn't mention that before. The Appy meads, especially, are varietal meads for sure.
Yeah.
So we have
they like to use a lot of linden.
Linden, exactly.
Yeah.
Linden honey, acacia honey, and honeydew honey, exactly. So, and I to be honest with you, when I started working with them, I can't say that I knew that much about honey or that kind of thing, but they started talking about single source honey and all that, and I remember thinking, okay, that's a cool concept, and I feel like having drank now, hundreds and hundreds of different meads, I can tell their mead from any one. Give me a sip of that, and I'll be like, that I know that variety right there. I know exactly where it's coming from. So yeah, that's cool.
I've got a side conversation going on with Pete Bokalich.
Oh, yeah.
He's apparently listening. He just doesn't do Discord, so he texted me. It's like, "Hey Pete, how you doing?" But I was asking. I was like, "By the way, are there any meaderies in Croatia?" Because he's Croatian.
And, I know that.
Yeah. Well, he says no. As far as he knows, there are no commercial licensed meaderies at this point in Croatia, though there's a couple people that are thinking about it. So yeah,
there's one in Bosnia, which is right there.
Really?
Yeah, so I thought I had heard of one in Croatia, but I'm not.
Okay, you and I are going to have a conversation because I'm trying to flesh out my European, and obviously you've been to places I haven't found yet. My way of finding them is searching all the different ways to say mead in different languages and hoping something comes up. So that's how I find 90% of the meaderies in the world is I type Medovina into a search engine and then start hunting. And there's a lot of time goes into that. So if there's some that I can add to the world mead list, so much the better.
I do know them. I'll find them for you. I mean, this one in Ukraine, and it'll take me a second to jar my memory on the name. And we really wanted to work with them because obviously we wanted to support them in this very difficult time with what's going on there, and it was just super complicated because they're not in they're not in the EU, so all of the advantages of trade deals and so on that you get from the EU wouldn't apply, and unfortunately it never really took off. But there's meaderies popping up everywhere now. In some cases, it's it's a relatively new thing. In some cases, it's something that has been around for a long time. They just never really commercialized it. So
they don't think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're out there for sure.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, you and I are going to have some sidebar conversations, my friend.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'd say I'm happy to share what I know, but I'm really interested to see also what you know that I don't. So that's because I've got a major update to do to the world meadery list. So
I feel like just from what I've picked up in our conversations and looking at the website and stuff, I feel like you have a whole sort of encyclopedic level of knowledge of sort of all different things that I barely even know anything about.
I have kind of the sky high view.
Yeah.
So like I look at it from the 50,000 foot point of view, and I make a decent mead, But like, for instance, we were having a side conversation in the chat. I was saying I'm going to be, when I start playing with session meads, I'm going to be leaning on Kevin because he's shown over and over and over and over and over that he's really good at it. So, it's like, go where the knowledge is. I'm not stupid, so, I have no problem at all with, with asking people for more information and to learn, because there's always something to learn. But at the same time, I've been involved in the mead industry for going on 40 years now. And, and again, as the Barbara Walter of, so my job is to get in there and find out who's doing what and talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so in my case, there's a few interesting places and people that I've kind of gotten to know that you may or may not know about. So if I can share something useful, I'm happy to do it.
But this has been way cool, and I expect we could probably go on for a while yet, but we try not to do that. So
I didn't know the form. I didn't know if you had a time limit or what. It makes sense that you don't, because it's a podcast. But
yeah, well, I mean, and we really shouldn't go as long as we do, but it always works out that way. So we've kind of given up and thrown our hands up and go, fine, it's just going to take 2 hours. So we've had that conversation many times. Kevin's the biggest one, like, we really need to shorten this, and other people have said it too.
But it never seems to work out.
It never seems to work that way, though. Yeah.
Well, I made myself a little like a tick.
We know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say, I made myself a little kind of checklist of things I was hoping we might talk about, and we've talked about them all. So we kind of covered it. It took us a while, but we got there.
Yep. Yeah, it was a good conversation. Great to have you on, and very interesting talking about the whole import process and all that stuff. It's like very different from what a typical mead maker starting out or well experienced might encounter, and that's valuable, I think.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I think I said this in my email to you earlier, Vicky, that, our goal as a company is to sort of become let's say the premier mead importer for the world, I guess. It's a lofty goal, but maybe we get there. I love that. We just like to be that. If there's a meadery out there, wherever they may be, not only Europe, but anywhere, and they've got something interesting, something different, good quality, the right sort of the whole package, the marketing, the pricing, whatever, that we could say, sure, we can help you. Why not? Why shouldn't you be in the U.S. market? We have
to hook you up with Kwan in South Korea. I don't know what his volume is yet.
I was just thinking about him too.
Yeah. Kwan makes really good mead, and he's, again, to my knowledge, the only meadery in South Korea. And
I've helped him get to Mazer Cup, and I'm pretty sure they won some awards.
Yeah, he won some awards at Copa Idrmel too. He's talented. He's a really great guy. We had him on the show a couple months ago.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. I probably know him at least through email, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
I obviously haven't. I've not been there, and I don't think I've tasted it, so it'd be worth kind of following up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say, well, you and I can talk, offline, and I'll be happy to share anything that I've got. And I'm going to pick your brains for anything that you've learned that isn't already on my list. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
But yeah, in the meantime, though, we'll let you get back to your life, because it is, bedtime for us East Coasters. And all you West Coasters like, dude, I just finished dinner. Tough. And Australia's like, oh, it's lunchtime. But definitely, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing with this. I'm glad to hear that the Mazers got you, because that was one of the things that I remembered when they had to switch from when Stosky changed, and it was a scramble to find an importer. So I'm really glad they found you.
Yep, happy to help over there, and thanks for having me on. I really
Are you gonna be at the Mazer in November? Are you coming out?
I haven't actually talked to anybody about it yet, so I don't know what the status is. I used to try and go every year, and I haven't been in a couple of years. I don't know if anybody on the call knows. It seemed like it was kind of.
I haven't got a date yet. I'll have to see if one's been set, but they haven't updated the website yet.
October, November, late October.
Usually it was in November last year. It's going to be in Milwaukee again this year. So
like you were saying earlier, the Mazer Cup used to be. I felt like it was a really fun thing to attend. There were events and different things, and then it just sort of became like.
Well, rumor has it that's coming back this year. I was talking to Carvin when I was there last year, and he was saying that you know, oh God, Pete's sending me like long involved text here. I was like, what? Anyway, no. So Carvin was saying that they were talking about bringing back the mixer and maybe doing a one-day conference.
All I can say, you know, in my role, I would love to go. I mean, I love to taste all the different meads and meet people and all that. But it would be great for someone like me just to sort of say, okay, you know, here's what's coming in from overseas.
Yeah, well, and it's good hobnobbing too, because you've got the internationals coming in to exhibit, because it is
exactly.
Well, now I think it's the second largest mead comp in the world. I think Mead Madness passed them last year, but yeah, they're picking up speed. But now they've got their sister comp in Mexico. So, but yeah, I mean, it would be cool if you were there. I'd love to meet you in person. If not, then I'll just have to catch you next time I'm up to my sister-in-law's. She lives up in Beverly, Mass, so not real far from you.
Okay. Well,
you can spit across New Hampshire, so it's like Delaware. You know, I think I can touch both borders.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I'll try to make it to Milwaukee, and if I can't, if you ever come down this way, let me know.
Yeah, if I get up your way, I'll definitely let you know. But yeah, I expect I'll be up to my sister's place sometime in the next year or so.
Excellent.
But yeah, in the meantime, best of luck to you guys. And I mean, I'm out here, so if you need to bounce something off people or just want somebody to vent at, I'm here. So
definitely need that sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand. Believe me, I've watched that go through so many people.
All right. Thank you guys so much again for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We're glad to have you. Thank you very much for coming on. And I'll talk to you soon. Probably get in touch with you sometime this week. All right.
Yeah, let's be in touch.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Right.
Best to your lady, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
All right.
Take care.
Okay, so I'm still figuring out who's going to be next and next and next. So I'll let you know. I know, and I've got inquiries on. People are like, sure, let me have the dates, and I give them the dates, and you're like, yeah, okay, I haven't heard back from them yet, so I'm going to be throwing a bunch more of that out. I'm trying to book up the rest of the season, so until the end of November. Anyway, there is a bunch of events coming up at Meaderies, and we've got August 28th, Viking Alchemist Meadery, Smyrna, Georgia, has Mead and Mini X2 paid minis, and you come in, you pay your fee, and you get 2 minis and all the paint you need, and you can paint those suckers and drink, which should probably be really interesting. August 29th, Wandering Wind Meadery, Charleston, West Virginia, has karaoke in Mead. That'd be fun. I always sing Me and Bobby McGee when I do karaoke, which isn't very often. August 30th, Moonjoy Meadery, Lenore, North Carolina, has Mead and Mindfulness. September 5th, White Winter Mead, Iron River, Wisconsin, has their Mead Mile Race. September 5th, Funkadelic in Farmville, Virginia, Let's Talk Mead. So they're basically just having a conversation around mead. September 5th, Marla Bobo Mead in Leuven, Belgium, has Mead Madness. September 6th, Grimsby Hollow Meadery, Middleville, Michigan, Drink Mead, Learn Things, Victorian Potions and Poisons. September 6th, the Bee Store in Lake Ridge, Virginia, has mead tasting with meads from Negus Winery. That was one I got to add to the mead list. I didn't know about them. September 13th, St. Ambrose Cellars, Beulah, Michigan, has their Barn Dance 2025. I'm planning to go to that. Should be fun. September 13th, Viking Alchemist Meadery, Smyrna, Georgia, has Mead and Metal Artist Market. September 13th and 14th, the St. Louis Renaissance Festival in Wentzville, Missouri. They are having a mead tasting. Ticket includes 4 samples of mead, a mead flask, and entertainment. Festival admission is separate. September 14th, Furrows to Fences in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, has From Hive to Glass, Mead Making Basics. September 20th, Texas Mead Fest in New Braunfels, Texas, has enjoy 8 tasting tickets and a keepsake glass at the festival. There's some really good meads down there. It's worth going to if you're anywhere near there. September 27th, Starlight Mead in Pittsburgh, North Carolina, has their Mead Fest 2025. And October 11th, the Michigan Mead Cup in Brighton, Michigan. That is a competition. There are no public events that I'm aware of, but there is judging. So if you're a mead judge, this is a really good event to check out. I will be there. Sounds like Brian's going to be there. Kevin's going to be there. So there's a lot of good people that are going to be there. October 11th, Premier Prairie Gardens, Spring Hill, Kansas, has a mead making class. And as always, support your local meadery. If you don't have a local meadery, or if you do and you just want to expand your horizons, you can go to shopmeads.com. That is Vino Shipper, and that is their list of meaderies from all over the United States, and as it turns out, also Europe. Now that Centeur Imports is in there, so you can find meads from everywhere, and there's some really good stuff in there. Trust me, you want to check it out. In the meantime, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and be excellent to one another.
Night, everybody.
Take care.
Night all.